My name is Emily Carter, and if someone had told me years ago that my husband would one day ask me to do something that would shake the foundation of everything I believed about us, I would have laughed. Michael Carter was my anchor, my safe harbor, the man who once made me believe in forever. He was steady, confident, and charming in a way that drew me in from the moment we first met. But what happened that night, the night he looked at me with pleading eyes and asked me to do something I still struggle to understand, became the beginning of a story I can never erase from my mind. It started quietly, the way most life-changing nights do. Our Boston townhouse felt unusually still, the kind of stillness that makes every sound echo. Michael had just returned from a business trip, and while I expected him to be tired, I hadn't expected the uneasiness in his eyes. He tossed his jacket on the couch, loosened his tie, and sat across from me with his hands steepled, as though he was rehearsing what he was about to say. The jazz music playing from the corner speaker only made the moment heavier, its soft notes filling the silence between us. "Emily," he began, his voice lower and rougher than usual, "I need you to do something for me." It wasn't the words themselves that startled me. It was the way he said them, slow, deliberate, and heavy with a kind of desperation I had never heard before. My husband was not a man who begged. He was a man who commanded rooms, who spoke with certainty, who always seemed to have a plan. But that night, he looked like someone carrying the weight of something far bigger than us. "What do you mean?" I asked cautiously, setting my glass of wine on the table. His eyes flickered toward me, then away, as though he couldn't bear to meet my gaze. "I need you to trust me, Emily. I need you to do this without asking questions." The pit in my stomach deepened. I hated riddles. "Michael, you're scaring me. What is this about?" He leaned forward, his hands gripping mine tightly. They were warm, but his grip was almost too tight, as though he feared I would pull away. His blue eyes searched mine, desperate for reassurance. "Promise me first. Promise me you'll do it." I wanted to say yes, to give him that trust without hesitation. He was my husband. But trust, once fractured, leaves behind tiny cracks, and over the past year, I had noticed things I never mentioned out loud. Late-night phone calls he would end abruptly if I walked into the room. Business trips that stretched longer than planned. A distant look in his eyes when he thought I wasn't watching. My instincts whispered things I refused to admit even to myself. "Michael," I said softly, "I can't promise without knowing what you're asking." He exhaled slowly, running a hand over his face. "Then let me explain, but you have to let me finish before you say anything." My heart thudded in my chest. I nodded, bracing myself. He leaned back, eyes fixed on the flickering candlelight on the coffee table. "There are things about my work, about my life, that I've never told you. Things I kept from you because I wanted to protect you. But it's all catching up now, and I don't have time to figure it out alone. I need your help, Emily. I need you to pretend for me. Pretend that everything is fine. Pretend that nothing is wrong." The words hung heavy in the air. "Pretend?" My chest tightened. "Pretend for who?" He swallowed, hesitation flickering in his eyes. "For people who are watching. For people who believe something about us that isn't true. I need you to be strong, to act like you don't know anything. And when I tell you to say something or do something, I need you to follow my lead." My pulse hammered in my ears. It sounded insane, like the beginning of a bad spy movie. But the seriousness in his eyes, the quiet desperation, told me this wasn't fiction. "Michael, what have you gotten yourself into?" His grip tightened again. "Please, Emily, just do this for me." In that moment, fear wrestled with loyalty inside me. I loved him, but I hated secrets. And yet, the thought of saying no terrified me more than the thought of agreeing. Because if I said no, if I refused him, what would that mean for us? So I whispered the words that would change everything. "Okay, I'll do it." The relief that washed over his face was almost painful to see. He kissed my forehead, murmuring, "Thank you, Emily. You don't know what this means." But the truth was, I didn't know what it meant either. The days that followed were a blur of confusion wrapped in normalcy. Michael acted as though nothing had changed, but I noticed the way his eyes darted to the windows at night, the way he checked his phone constantly, the way he avoided giving me direct answers. And then, one evening, he came home and asked me to put on my best dress, to smile as though everything was perfect, and to attend a dinner with him. At first, I thought it was just another corporate event, but the tension in his jaw told me it was more. We arrived at a sleek hotel downtown, chandeliers glittering overhead, men in tailored suits and women in gowns that shimmered under the golden lights. Michael kept his arm around me, his grip firm, guiding me through the crowd. "This is one of them," he whispered in my ear as a tall man approached us. I froze, unsure of what that meant. But I forced a smile, doing exactly what Michael had asked, pretend. The man's name was Richard Hale, and from the first moment he shook my hand, I felt the sharpness behind his smile. His eyes studied me too closely, as though I were a puzzle he was trying to solve. And all through the dinner, I played my role. I laughed when I was supposed to, I leaned into Michael's side, and I acted like the perfect wife who had no idea that her husband was hiding something dark. But inside, I was unraveling. When we returned home that night, I confronted him. "Michael, I can't do this without knowing the truth. Who are these people? Why do you look at them like they're dangerous?" For a long time, he said nothing. Then finally, he whispered, "Because they are." I stared at him, the world tilting under my feet. "Dangerous how?" His eyes met mine, and in them I saw a storm of fear and guilt. "If I tell you, Emily, you'll never see me the same way again. That's why I didn't want this for you. That's why I kept it hidden. But now I don't have a choice. You're already part of it." And so, piece by piece, the man I thought I knew unraveled before my eyes. He told me about deals he had been forced into, about debts that weren't financial but personal, about people who had given him no way out. He had thought he could shield me from it, but now the only way to protect me was to bring me into his lie, to have me play a role in the dangerous game he had been dragged into. My heart ached with every word. The husband I loved had become a stranger, a man caught in shadows I couldn't see clearly. And yet I stayed. I stayed because love is complicated, because loyalty doesn't vanish in the face of fear, because part of me still believed I could save him. But as the weeks went on, the requests grew heavier. Pretend with strangers. Smile for people who scared me. Say things that weren't true. And every time I looked into Michael's eyes, I saw the man I married slipping further away. And then came the night when his request went too far. The night when he asked me to lie not just for him, but against someone else. Someone innocent. Someone who had no idea they were caught in the web Michael had spun.